I thought it would be a polite, quick dinner, 15 minutes of small talk, and a handshake from my husband's boss. I didn't expect a quiet corner table, a sealed envelope with my name on it, and a moment that would change how I saw my marriage and myself. Before I begin, do me a favor. If you're watching this, tell me which city you're tuning in from in the comments. I love picturing the places where people listen. Maybe you're in Phoenix with that big sky, or in Boston with the brick and the breeze, or in a little town where the diner still knows your order. Share your city so I can imagine your street lights as I tell this. The invitation came on a Tuesday, tucked between a grocery list and a phone charger on our kitchen counter. A heavy white card, clean letterpress, the kind of paper that makes a soft sound when you run your thumb across it. Rye's handwriting was neat and square. Jean, would you join me Thursday for dinner at Morningside? I'd like to thank you personally. It was strange enough to make me pause. My husband's boss inviting me, just me, to a restaurant known for thick steaks and red leather booths. I turned the card over like it might have more to say on the back. I could have ignored it, but curiosity can be louder than comfort. My husband raised his eyebrows when I showed him. Rye's old school, he said. He's probably doing one of his courtesy things, manners with a side of mashed potatoes. He was smiling, but there was something else there too, something like relief mixed with pride. Go, he urged. It'll be fine. So I went. I ironed a navy dress I keep for PTA events and funerals, applied mascara with a more careful hand than I usually bother with, and chose the pearl studs my mother gave me when I turned 30. I wanted to look like myself, just the tidy, respectable version. I drove across town as the sky melted from pink to violet, and I could already taste the restaurant's buttery air before I reached the valet stand. Morningside's doorway glowed like a promise. Inside, it was all hush and clink. The host led me past families celebrating birthdays, a woman laughing too loudly at a story she'd heard before, and a man picking cherries out of his Manhattan like each one held a secret. Randy rose when he saw me. He was taller than I remembered from the company picnic, with that gentleman's posture that comes from a lifetime of carrying a jacket properly. He wore a charcoal suit that didn't try too hard, and a tie the color of strong tea. He looked less like the boss, and more like an uncle who's good at fixing leaky faucets. Jean, he said warmly, as if my name were a reassurance. Thank you for coming. He pulled out my chair in that careful, practiced way. When I sat, the leather sighed beneath me, and the candle between us made two little moons in his water glass. We talked the way two people talk when they're sorting out the shape of a conversation. Weather first. It had rained earlier, that soft kind of rain that makes the streets sparkle and the grass forgiving. Then small talk about traffic, parking, and how restaurants should stop putting tiny flowers on salads because nobody knows if we're supposed to eat them. His smile had a kindness to it that surprised me. I'd expected sharp edges, a man who spent his days cutting figures and rearranging calendars. But he spoke like someone who'd learned his manners from a grandmother. Menus arrived, heavy as family Bibles. We ordered without much fuss. He took the steak. I chose the trout. When the server left, Randy leaned in slightly, elbows off the table, hands folded like a careful prayer. I wanted to speak with you privately, he said, because gratitude doesn't always fit neatly into a staff meeting. My spine did that little ripple that happens when you're not sure if you should smile or brace. I told myself to breathe. I took a sip of water, cold, clean, grounding. You know your husband is talented, Randy went on, and steady, which is rarer than talent. He glanced down for a moment, then back at me. But anyone who stays late and comes in early isn't doing that alone. There's a person at home turning down the oven, keeping a list, reminding the house that morning will come. He smiled softly. I just wanted to say I notice. It was such a simple thing. I felt it like heat moving up my throat. I laughed because what else do you do when someone says something uncommonly decent? I think he'd work just as hard if I were a disaster, I joked. He's stubborn like that. Stubbornness can be a virtue, Randy said, amusement softening his eyes. And so can loyalty. Our food arrived with the comforting weight of plates, placed by hands that had done this thousands of times. The trout smelled like butter and lemon, and a little bit of the ocean. We ate and talked about ordinary things that suddenly looked extraordinary when held up to the light. His first job bussing tables. How he learned to tie a tie by watching his father in a hallway mirror. The way his wife used to tape grocery lists to the fridge with washi tape because the paper looked happier that way. I glanced at his left hand without meaning to and saw a plain gold wedding band. Something about that steady ring made me settle deeper into my chair. There was a rhythm to the meal. Bite, question, answer. The kind of flow that makes you forget you were nervous. He asked about me, not just the polite version. What do you do when the house is too quiet? I repot plants and listen to old vinyl, I admitted, even when they crackle. Where do you go when you're sad? The library, I said immediately. Always the library, it smells like my childhood. Then he asked something that lingered between us like steam. What did you love as a girl that you misplaced somewhere along the way? I stared at the candle for a moment before answering. The piano. The word came out softer than I expected. I told him about my mother's upright piano. The walnut finish with dents from cousins, belt buckles during Christmas gatherings. How I learned scales by watching my father's elbows more than his fingers. How I kept promising myself I'd take lessons again someday. But life crowds the corners. Randy nodded with quiet understanding. Corners collect treasures and dust in equal measure, he said. You have to choose what you keep. The candle burned lower. Voices around us rose and fell like a tide. Somewhere across the room, a man told a joke so good strangers smiled just hearing it. I looked around and suddenly thought about how many beginnings and endings restaurants hold night after night. So many secrets tucked between courses. Randy dabbed his mouth with his napkin, then set it down carefully. Jean, he said, voice warmer now, more deliberate, I invited you because there's something I wanted to give you. He paused. It's not a company thing, and it's not complicated. A ghost of a smile touched his face. It's a person thing. The air changed. You know how certain moments arrive with silence before them, as if the world itself steps aside. That. Randy reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a simple cream envelope. No embossing, no decoration. Just my name, written carefully across the front. Jean. I stared at it. Then at him. My mind started cartwheeling immediately. Is this strain? Is this kindness? Is this the beginning of something uncomfortable? I thought about my husband at home, feet up, television too loud. I thought about trust, how it isn't one grand gesture, but 1,000 small ones holding hands. It's not what you're thinking, Randy said gently, reading my expression. No strings, no awkwardness, just gratitude. And then he added quietly, from me and someone else. I slid my finger under the flap. Inside was another smaller envelope and a folded note on Morningside letterhead. The smaller envelope had weight to it, stiff and smooth like a certificate. The note felt fragile. Take your time, Randy said softly, hands resting beside his plate like he was holding the whole table steady. I didn't open it immediately. Instead, I looked around the room one more time, as if I already knew I'd want to remember everything exactly as it was before the moment changed. A server carried away a birthday cake 3 tables over like it held a secret wish. A couple in the booth behind us whispered in that conspiratorial way that always makes strangers curious. The candle between us burned smaller now, but steadier somehow. I don't know what to say, I admitted quietly. I'm not used to being singled out. Then consider this a course correction, Randy replied gently. For all the times someone should have said something and didn't. That landed somewhere deep inside my ribs. In the years of school lunches, and late-night drives and forgotten appointments. In all the invisible ways, a woman can hold a household together without anyone ever naming it out loud. My eyes prickled. I laughed at myself, embarrassed by how emotional I suddenly felt. "Okay," I whispered, trying to save my mascara and my dignity at the same time. "Okay." I unfolded the note first. The paper crackled softly beneath my fingers. And the second I saw the handwriting, my breath caught. It was Randy's handwriting. It was my husband's. I recognized it instantly. The slight slant, the low-cross T's, the careful shape of letters that looked like smiles growing slowly. Suddenly I was 20 again, sitting in a cracked vinyl diner booth reading his first note to me on a coffee-stained napkin. "Go on," Randy said warmly. "He asked me to give it to you when the moment felt right." I held the smaller envelope in one hand, but didn't open it yet. There are moments in life you only get to enter once. I wanted to step into this one carefully. I rested my palm against the table to steady myself and began to read. "Jean, I've spent years saying thank you in ways too small. Half-empty coffee mugs, warmed-up cars, quick kisses before work. But I wanted this one to be clearer. Bigger. You've given me patience that built my career. You've given me laughter when I couldn't see straight. You've given me years of holding our life together quietly, while I chased deadlines and forgot to stop long enough to notice what it cost you. I asked Randy to give you this because he understands gratitude. And because you deserve to hear this somewhere quiet, without the television on or the dishwasher running. Open the smaller envelope. It's a piece of yourself waiting for you." By the time I finished reading, my vision blurred. All at once, I remembered our early years. The tiny apartment with the radiator that clanged like drums. The night's dinner was toast and tea because money was thin. Back then, love felt like survival. Now, decades later, it felt layered and weathered and tested, but still alive. My fingers trembled as I opened the smaller envelope. Inside was a certificate. 6 months of prepaid piano lessons at the exact studio I'd driven past for years but never walked into. I stared at it in silence. Randy finally spoke softly. "He told me about the piano," he said. "Said he was afraid life had gotten too loud and you'd started believing your music was gone." My throat tightened painfully. He remembered. Randy smiled. Of course he remembered. He just needed help making the gesture land. Tears finally slipped free, but this time they came with a smile that refused to leave. "I don't know how to thank either of you," I whispered. "You don't thank me," Randy said gently. "You go home and play for him someday. That'll be enough." The candle had nearly burned out. Around us, the restaurant slowly emptied. People pulled on coats. Laughter drifted toward the doors. Glasses clinked softly in the distance. But for me, time felt suspended. Fragile. Sacred. We lingered over coffee afterward, letting the heaviness of the evening soften into something warm and manageable again. Randy told me about his daughter teaching him how to text without sounding, like a retired principal. I told him about the time our dog stole an entire roast chicken off the counter while we answered the front door. It felt good to laugh again after crying. When we finally stood to leave, Randy helped me into my coat as carefully as if it were silk instead of department store wool. Outside, the air smelled cool and faintly of the river nearby. The valet brought my car around, headlights washing softly across the pavement. And as I drove home with that envelope resting on the passenger seat beside me, I realized something quietly devastating. Sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it's simply someone remembering the piece of you that you forgot to save for yourself.